So just assume for a moment there's 12, we use 13 questions, but there's 12 questions that are basic questions. And so each question has a point value attached to it. So imagine then that if I asked you these questions and your point value was 10 points, then the technician recommendation at this point, when the customer asks, is it's probably in your best interest to just go ahead and repair the system. Now what we want you to do as a technician is you need to make sure that you capture them on a service agreement. If we don't capture them on a service agreement, then that customer is essentially vulnerable to the outside community. And what can happen is we're going to lose them to somebody else selling them a new piece of equipment one day, or it'll become a lead generation issue for another company, and we'll get called in and we'll be bidding against 3 companies. So we want them to become an existing customer. We want them to love us. We're going to sell them a service agreement as a part of this process. And that's an entirely different conversation than this video. That's a service agreement sales transaction process. Group 2, or secondary recommendation, is the point totals arrive at between 11 and 19. Let's say that there's 18 points. This becomes a customer choice, and it's going to be a discussion point. 9 out of 10 customers are going to look at you as the service technician, that you're the professional and you're the expert, and you're going to have the opportunity to make a suggestion. So you'll have that opportunity, and you'll have to decide with the client what's in their best interest. And that is an unknown, okay? Clearly, if it's a repair, then what we want to do is follow this model here, which is do the repair, sell them a service agreement. Or it could be a replace it. It's not definitive, because a good example is maybe it hits the threshold of $4,200, but the customer isn't going to live in the house for very much longer, so maybe it's only a 3 or 4 year type of thing, and the guy or girl is going to be transferred. And so they don't necessarily want to invest a whole bunch of money in a brand new system, and it's one of those things that, well, they probably could do it, or maybe they don't want to do it. And so this is one of those discussions where you simply say, well, it might be in your best interest. By the way, this is where it's critical that you have a financing program. If your company does not have a strong financing alternative, then most consumers are probably going to opt for the repair in this situation. If you have an excellent financing program, you can actually suggest that because you have an excellent financing program, you can go ahead and do the replacement for the equipment today. The financing will be a low-cost payment, and you'll actually be able to save money and enjoy a total comfort system that works for your best interests. And even though you're going to be moving in, say, 3 or 4 years, even if you did move, you can pay off that note any time when you transact the house, and that's going to be a real benefit for the next homeowner that you've done the mechanical replacement. That's something that they'll benefit from. In the absence of a good financing program, that conversation leaves the homeowner with the idea of writing a check. So unfortunately, a lot of technicians are not skilled at being able to talk about the money side. So part of what we have to do is train you, and part of what your company has to do is train you to be comfortable to talk about the financing and the alternatives, so that this middling decision point lands in the favor of more replacements, not less replacements. Either way, you win if you sell them a service agreement, because chances are you're probably going to get the replacement at some point. But if we're looking at just doing the right thing for the customer, giving them the best options, your financing program will be the swing vote in this category. And then the final category is if you're 20 plus, this is really a replace it kind of a discussion. You know, it's out of warranty, it's a large repair, you're probably dealing with R22 as a refrigerant, which is going to be an expensive set of repairs in the future if you need any additional refrigerant. You're probably going to have issues with, whether or not the equipment itself is even going to have more repairs. So this is a good discussion. So what we do is we walk the customer through a questionnaire. Great technicians are going to internalize the questions, but you're still going to give the visual aid to the client. And we use an iPad today, and we can just check the boxes, and then that'll summation total, and it'll even get to the point of making some recommendations. So with that, let's go over to the studio, and we'll recap this discussion. But just remember, there are 2 rules. The 4K rule gets us into the game of opportunity. Less than 4K is a repair, fix the service agreement. More than 4K brings us into the question process, and it's probably going to land in one of these 2 areas there.